You ever feel like you know you're not where you want to be in life, but there's something in the back of your brain that keeps saying, I didn't come this far just to come this far. Like, yes, I know I'm not making the money that I want to make. And yes, I know there's other jobs and careers I can do that can make me a lot more money. But what does that mean about how far I've come? Does that mean all the time that I've been putting in is a waste? Why did I do all this for all these years just to up and do something completely different and start from zero at my big old age? Yes, I know if I move to a different city, I can have other opportunities and I possibly can meet new people. But what does that mean about the people where I live now? The experiences that I've had, the friendships that I've made, the family that I've had all this time. And a lot of times it feels like that's what's keeping us back. The fear of starting over. You want to do new things. You want to have new experiences, possibly even meet new people. But there's just this fear of feeling like I have to start over. And what does that mean about the life that I've been living? Does that mean I've wasted 20 years? Does that mean I've wasted 25, 30, 35 years? What does that mean for me? And a lot of times I've learned that's what's holding us back. It's your fear of starting over, not understanding first and foremost, what does it mean for you and look like for you to start over, but then understanding why you physically can't do it. Because mentally, you keep telling yourself, I'm not happy. I don't want to be here. I'm not making the money. But it feels like it only stays inside of your mental. Physically, your body does not move. Physically, you do not make any changes. You do not start any new habits. And you're trying to figure out why. So in this video, we are going to talk about that. We are going to talk about the psychology of starting over. So first, we're going to talk about, why does starting over feel so hard? Why does starting over feel so uncomfortable? Why does it feel like there are certain people that can just pick up and change their life? But for you, it feels like literally every single new decision is a dire need and it's going to affect you for the rest of your life and you're going to be in a messed up place. It is actually something called the terror management theory in psychology and anthropology. And essentially, this is just a theory that kind of states that we as individuals, we as humans, a lot of our human behavior actually is driven by our fear of death and our fear of uncertainty. Now, death makes sense, right? When we do things, a lot of people don't go bungee jumping. Why? Because they're afraid of dying. Some people don't even go on roller coasters. Why? Because they're afraid of death. So that makes sense, probably for most people, right? We don't do certain things, certain behaviors out of a fear of death. But the one that might confuse people is the fear of uncertainty. And I want you to understand, uncertainty for so many people literally feels like death. And let me explain it to you so it makes a little bit more sense. When we are doing human behaviors, when we are doing anything, let's just think about it like this, make it easy. When we're making decisions, am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? Am I going to go up or am I going to go down? A lot of times we, without realizing it, go back to our memory. We go back to, what do the people around us do? We go back to, how were we raised? We go back to, how are we taught? What are the rules with certain things, right? And that is a sense of our certainty. When we make decisions and we are uncertain about them, there's a little bit of death that happens to, a lot of times, our ego. Because you have to understand, when you are making an uncertain decision, you cannot cling to the rules of things. You cannot cling to the principles or things that you knew growing up. And that is why for a lot of people, it's so hard to do something like starting a business. It's so hard because when you're in those uncomfortable stages, or sometimes even comfortable stages, and you have to make the next decision, you're uncertain of what to do. Why? Because you're not used to this thing. You don't have the rule book. You didn't grow up seeing people have businesses. You don't know any other business owners. So you're more likely to quit that business because of the uncertainty of the next step. You literally don't know what you're going to do. And the reason why I said this is a little bit of the death of your ego, it is because you have to, a little bit, kill off the prior you. You have to kill off the individual that's used to working a 9 to 5. You have to kill off a little bit the individual who's used to going to their boss and saying, hey, what time do I take my lunch break? You have to kill off the individual in you that's used to making money a certain way. That's why, for example, someone like me, right? I know how to work at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's when I was 16 up until I was like 19 years old. I know how to get the job. I know what to do at the job. I'm very certain. If I was to apply to a job being, let's say, a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I have to kill off a little bit of that McDonald's worker. A lot of it probably, because it's not going to flow the same way. And so what does that mean? During that killing stage, there's going to be uncertainty. And I want you to understand, uncertainty to your brain feels like death, because you have to kill off what you're already taught. You have to kill off your prior principles. You have to kill off literally what you already know, who you already were, because that individual cannot go to the next phase. And hearing it, it sounds easy. Oh yeah, duh. I'm gonna kill off a McDonald's worker to be a Fortune 500 CEO owner. Of course I would do that. I'm making more money. I'm gonna be rich. Consciously, we understand that and it makes sense, but subconsciously, it feels very similar sometimes to physical death. Your mental death feels very similar to a physical one in your brain. And I want to explain that to you, to the individuals that's like, why can't I do it? It's the terror management theory. When you are making decisions on what to do, your brain more than likely resorts to what it already knows, what it's already comfortable with, because the fear of doing something that's uncertain literally feels like death. But you have to understand that death is necessary. And I want to explain to you guys a case study in which this was used on judges. So hopefully it makes a little bit more sense and you see that it happens on so many different areas in life. Psychologists split a group of judges into two groups. One group was asked a couple of questions that reminded them of their mortality. Things like, describe how you feel when you think about your own death. The other group didn't get those reminders. Then both groups were given the same scenario. They had to set the bail for a woman accused of prostitution. Here's the wild part. The judges who were reminded about death set her bail at around $450, while the other judges who weren't thinking about death set it to only $50. The only difference was that one group had mortality on their mind. Psychologists call this terror management theory. When we're forced to think about uncertainty or death, we cling to harder rules, morals, and control. Now, I want to explain that study just a little bit more, because when I first heard it, it didn't make sense to me. Like, why, when judges were told about death or talking about imagining their death, did they make the bail higher? But then it makes sense when you think about terror management theory. A lot of times we don't even understand you have a fear of terror. Like, it sounds crazy, but you have a fear so much of a fear that you don't even want to think about that thing. Subconsciously, we all know we all have a day. Subconsciously, we all know one day we're going to have to die. But we don't think about that consciously. That's not something that we think about because it's scary, right? When they had to bring that from their subconscious to their conscious, it was so scary to them that they clung on to something they can control, because we all know, unfortunately, we cannot control when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, but we all want control of life. They were so afraid of that fear of thinking about their death and how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen, something they can't control, that they went even harder on what they can control, the values they have, the rules they have. And that's why they made the bail higher. Mind you, the judges that weren't thinking about death consciously, they were just like, okay, it's just a regular day, whatever. Now, bringing this back to you, going back to why starting over feels so scary, and going back to the terror management theory, when you are uncertain about things, you go way back into what you know. So much so that you will put yourself in uncomfortable, even sometimes messed up situations, because it is all that you know. And not only it's all that you know, it's all that you feel like you have control of. And the most scariest thing we all have, everybody has different upbringings and different fears. One of the things that we all unanimously, no matter where you're from, no matter what era, well, let me not say era, I don't know, some people, death. It is scary. It is something that we can't control. We don't know when it's going to come, but we know it's coming for all of us. And so we make decisions, going back to terror management theory, about kind of trying to negate death a bit. But like I said, uncertainty feels like death. So you stay stuck, you stay broke, you stay out of shape, you stay certain, because even if it hurts, even if it's something that is making you cry every single night, at least you know you crying every single night. It sounds crazy to some people, but that feeling of just having control feels so good that even if it feels bad, it makes you feel like at least I can control this. But I want you to understand that control, that fear of uncertainty is literally what's keeping you stuck. And that is why it's so hard to physically change when you already know mentally you don't want to be in that situation no more. Now, another reason why starting over feels so uncomfortable is because a lot of it we are not conscious of. There's actually something in psychology called the liminal space state, essentially. And this is kind of like the awkward stage when you're not who you want to be yet, but you're still not completely the person that you were before. And this is the in-between stage that a lot of people do not acknowledge. It is necessary to happen. And actually, if it does not happen and you try to negate it or get away from it, you're never going to get the finished product. An easy example you can think of is, I don't know if you guys liked this growing up, but I did, the home renovation TV shows when they would show you a house and it would be run down and ugly, and then they would show you a new house and it would be so nice. There was one like in the early 2000s where this guy used to like pick random families. They probably weren't random, but I don't know if you guys remember that show. And they used to get families and it would be like a big family who like recently lost their house, or the parents were going through foreclosure. Like it'll be something like that. And then so you get to spend time with this family, grow a relationship with them, see their living situation, and it's usually not good. And then in the end, we end up seeing this nice house and they walk around the house and it's so nice and all these other things. There's two pieces to that show, and that's what made it so good. It was the beginning. We built the relationship with them. We got to see the before, what they were going through in that house or lack of a house. And then we got to see the end, the beautiful house with the movie theater and all the kids got their own room and all these other things. But the part that they cut out, and it's because we don't usually like that part, if we're going to be honest as humans, is the liminal space phase, that awkward space in between the house not being done, the awkward space in between when they had to knock down the walls. And don't get me wrong, they kind of show it a little bit just to give us a little bit of like oh, it's really happening. But for the most part, they don't show too much of that. Why? Because that is a space that makes people sometimes bored, if we're going to be completely honest. That is a space that honestly we do not like to acknowledge. That's why we love to watch TikToks. We love to see people's glow up journey of showing, oh my gosh, this is what my butt looked like 6 months ago, and this is what my butt looks like now. And we like that more so than a girl being in the gym every single week and showing her progress. That girl is not going to get a lot of views. She's not going to get a lot of engagements. Why? Because we don't care about that awkward phase. But I want you to understand, with anything that you do in life, that awkward phase, the liminal phase, is necessary. And so that's why it feels so uncomfortable, because the liminal phase is supposed to be uncomfortable. Before you get that degree, nobody is glamorizing staying up late studying. Nobody is glamorizing you having to miss out going on the girls' trip because you have finals. Nobody glamorizes the liminal phase because it is boring, it is stressful, it's not cute, but it's necessary. And I want you to understand that, to understand when you're going through that phase of not yet being the person that you want to be, but also knowing you're not the person that you once were before. That phase is normal and you're going to get through it, but you have to acknowledge that it's real and stop feeling like it's either or. That's the problem. A lot of people want to be either or. It's either I am this boss babe, this woman, this six-figure entrepreneur, or I'm the girl that's struggling to get by. No, you can be the in between, the girl working towards that, the woman that's going to get that. And that's necessary. And so I definitely want to talk about that phase because it's an actual term for it. It's actually real and it is actually normal. The next part I want to talk about is why relapsing and restarting is actually normal. A big thing I feel like a lot of people struggle with when it comes to the whole starting over and restarting your life is you relapsing and feeling like that was a waste. You will tell yourself, I'm going to the gym for a month. You will go to the gym for 26 days and maybe one weekend you get sick, or maybe one weekend your alarm doesn't, go off, or something happens one day. And then all you do is tell yourself that is proof that you're not the person that you say you were. That is proof that you can't go to the gym. That is proof that you're never going to get your body together. But you don't also look at the proof that you did for the 26 days. And I want you to understand, relapsing, as some people may call it, restarting, as some people may call it, depending on what you're going through, actually is you proving to yourself, first and foremost, you're human and you're not perfect, but it's actually proving to yourself that you're learning, because now moving forward, you know what to do. So many people repeat the same thing over and over and over again because they look at that restart and that relapse as shame. No, hey, I was supposed to wake up every single morning and go to the gym. This morning, I didn't wake up because I set my alarm for 7 p.m. instead of 7 a.m. and I missed it. Okay, now moving forward, maybe instead of setting our alarm every night, we're going to have the automatic alarm that we can set that automatically does it. Okay, I went to sleep too late. Okay, now we're going to listen, on my phone, I got this little bedtime thing. I sometimes even be out with my friends. They hear, dum, dum, dum. They know, oh, it's my bedtime. Okay. Why do I have that though? I have that because I learned I would stay up too late and then I would wake up in the morning and I didn't want to wake up and I didn't want to go to the gym and I didn't want to do my healthy habits. But I had to have those phases happen. I had to have the times where I woke up tired and didn't want to go to the gym. I had to have the times where I forgot to do my morning routine, because those were learning lessons. The relapsing, the restarting is just you learning what not to do, but stop chastising yourself and telling yourself that this is proof that you're not who you say you want to be. And this is proof that you're never going to beat this thing or beat this addiction no, this is a learning phase for you. And not only is it like learning, just learning, it literally is helping your brain grow. And so I've talked about this in many videos before, but there is something in the brain called plasticity, sorry guys. And essentially this is your brain growing. So your brain literally can physically grow, but it has to grow honestly doing new things. And a lot of times, going back to what we said before, new things are uncomfortable. And so I want to give you guys a case study that was done where they did it on taxi drivers, and they literally essentially measured their brains after doing this study and saw that they were using their brains for neuroplasticity, and it was actually growing their brains. And I'm going to talk about it after, but growing your brain is essential because it helps you do more than just that specific task. Like neuroplasticity, yes, the process of it, and I'm going to explain it in the case study, does grow your brain. But even if you're using neuroplasticity, let's say to go to the gym, right? You're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. You're learning, you're starting and restarting again and again and again. The fact that your brain is bigger means that you're more likely to be able to do harder things in general. So when it comes to starting that business, when it comes to going back to school, doing another task, due to the fact that your brain is growing and getting larger, it is able to take on more tasks. Think of it kind of as like a weight. Essentially, when you grow your brain and make it stronger at the gym, that means that when it's time to bring the groceries in the house, now you could bring in more groceries. Did you specifically train your body at the gym to bring in more groceries? No, but the simple fact that the muscle is bigger, you can do that. And so that's why I also want to tell you with neuroplasticity, because I don't want people to think, oh, well, my brain is only growing in this one direction. No, when your brain grows, you can do a lot more things. But let me get into the case study and explain this one. So this case study was done in the year 2000, and this is a famous study on London taxi drivers. To get a license there, they have to memorize over 25,000 streets. It literally takes years. When scientists scanned their brains, they found the part responsible for memory and navigation was literally bigger than the average person's. That's neuroplasticity in action. The brain rewiring itself to handle new challenges. That's what happens when you start over. Your brain is literally redrawing the map. Now, when I first read that study, I was like, wow, that is so crazy, 25,000 streets. I did also realize I kind of reworded it wrong when I first said it. I kept saying grow your brain, grow your brain, grow your brain. It is not grow your brain physically. That's not what I meant. And I want to get that off the table. Because I don't want people to be like, I'm about to get a big head. No. Some of us heads are big enough. It is rewiring neurons in your brain. So think of it as being like, think about going down a street, right? A dark street at night and like the lights aren't turned on, but think about neuroplasticity essentially turning on those lights. So the more you learn, the more uncomfortable situations you're in, essentially it's turning on those lights, and those are neurons turning on that were off. And that's what it means, because I know I kept saying, grow your brain, grow your brain, grow your brain. And I'm like, girl, that's not the right terminology. You don't have people around here thinking anybody get big heads, because you're not. But essentially, that is a big process as far as understanding that starting over again, because you have to understand, well, you've heard it, but it took them years to get this thing. Like, it took them years to learn 25,000 streets. They had to have it in memory to know exactly where to go. So when someone says, I want to go down this street, and they go there, they had to, and this is before GPS was big. I don't know what they do now in London, because I don't want nobody watching this like, you don't have to do that anymore. This was in the year 2000, but essentially, like a lot of the case studies, it still sticks. If you do uncomfortable things, put your brain through these things over a consecutive, repetitive amount of times, i.e. restarting, it's literally growing your brain. So stop looking at restarting as being bad. Stop looking at restarting as, oh, well, this means that I'm not good enough. This means that you're rewiring new neurons in your brain. So this is actually good. The problem is when you keep getting into the same situation by doing the same thing. The problem is when you keep allowing that alarm to not wake you up, when you keep going to bed late and not doing anything about it, like literally not changing anything. And even sometimes when you try to change stuff, you may change stuff wrong and learn, hey, I can't do that. But the whole point of it is not to do the same thing again and again and again and keep getting results that you don't want. Another thing is you need to have a beginner's mind. A lot of times when we do things, especially when we're restarting something, we have an expert's mind. An expert mind says, I should know this thing already. I should be good at this thing already. It's essentially, I should. It's this conviction that we have with ourselves because we feel like I've done this thing before. I've been trying to quit this thing, or I've been trying to do this thing. And when you're doing it, you're going into the mindset as an expert, as somebody that should do it perfectly. And so when you don't do it perfectly, a lot of times that's what makes you quit, or that's what makes you go back to your old self and resort back to your old ways. What you need to have is a beginner's mind. You need to allow yourself to be curious. You need to allow yourself to be like, oh, that is how you do this. You need to allow yourself to not feel like you have to take on this unbeknownst to you responsibility. Like, we give ourselves, just because we've done something a certain amount of time, we give ourselves this responsibility of saying, I should be perfect at this thing, and I should know how to do this thing, and I should. Well, you don't. And that's okay. But stop putting all that responsibility on yourself of feeling that way, because if you've seen before, the responsibility is literally what's weighing you down and pushing you back down to your old self when you are trying to rise to your higher self. So allow yourself to have a beginner's mind. I don't care how many times you've done something. Allow yourself to be curious. Allow yourself to allow other people to be better than you. Like, I've learned with anything that you do, having a beginner's mind is necessary, even sometimes depending on how good you are at something. Like with content, thank you guys so much. I recently hit 100,000 followers about a month ago, give or take. I still am having a beginner's mind because I realized I started to have an expert mind. I started to become too rigid with certain things. I started to become too, Shamaya, you should do this, or you should. And then I realized I placed myself in a box and I couldn't grow, because if you have an expert mind, that means you know everything. You know all the rules. You know all the... Going back to terror management theory, you are certain about everything. And so, because life changes, things change. When things do change, if you stick to that expert mind so hard and so rigid, you're literally going to stay behind. You're literally what? Even if it already worked for you too. That's another thing too people have to be aware of. Maybe the mindset, the things you were doing, essentially, the habits you were doing, got you where you wanted to be. That doesn't mean that they were bad habits, and that doesn't mean that you are a bad person just because those same habits are not getting you where you want to go. You have to allow yourself to stay curious. You have to allow yourself to say, hey, doing X, Y, and Z got me to where I am now and I'm proud of it. But if I want to get to this next phase, I got to do D, Y, X. I can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over, getting me, even if they did get me the results I wanted at the time, because life changes. Everything changes. The economy changes. Age changes. Like that's the one, besides death, one of the certain things that we know in life. And so that's one thing I also would say, like, don't be ashamed about restarting. Don't be embarrassed about it. Have a beginner's mindset. Learn in the restart. What is this thing teaching you? And when you're starting something again, be curious. Oh, that's how I can do this differently. Oh, don't tell yourself, no, this is how I should do it. Well, last time, this is how it worked. Maybe that's not working this time. And that's okay. The next section I want to talk to you guys about is the hidden power of starting over. There's actually this theory essentially called growth after setback. And sometimes our setbacks are small, right? Sometimes, like I said, it's just I didn't wake up early enough or I missed this certain thing. But sometimes they're big. And I think the big things are even harder, if you will, proving to us sometimes why we're not where we should be or why we're not who we are. But I want you to understand, having major things happen to you are not proof that essentially you're not that kind of person or you can't achieve that thing. Sometimes they actually, if you understand how to use them in your favor, depending on how you look at things, they actually can propel you. And so I want to give you guys a case study that was done on individuals who had major essential setbacks in their life, major traumatic things that happened to them. But the way they shaped it in their brain was able to help them actually start over, because it gave them the mindset of, this is my second chance, whether it's at life, whether it's at a job, whatever it may be. Instead of having a mindset of, oh my gosh, my life is never going to be the same. Oh my gosh, I can never go back to my old life. You can't. And sometimes we need to acknowledge that too, though. Like when we have traumatic things happen to us or our lives are literally flipped upside down, I always talk about it, but so many people cling to the nostalgia of what the life was before, the nostalgia of how I lived my life before. And the crazy part about it, if a lot of us are honest with ourselves, during that nostalgia phase, you still weren't happy. Like you weren't that happy, but it's the simple fact that something changed your life so dramatically that you can't even go back to even that unhappy life that makes you unhappier. It sounds crazy, but like we will literally yearn for a life that we weren't even happy when we were living, just because we don't want to have to navigate that uncertainty, have to navigate a new life, sometimes after a death, sometimes after a breakup, sometimes after we miss it so much. And we're just like, I want that life. I want that life. I want that life. When you don't understand, the new mindset that you have can literally propel you in a different direction in a life that you potentially could have. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we can't go back. Like you yearn for that. You cry for that. I want to go back. I wish it was how it was before. And I don't want to be insensitive, because I know a lot of people are watching my channel from a lot of different perspectives. But one thing I've had to be honest with myself and say, but you can't. But the beauty is you were able to experience that life. The beauty is you were able to experience those memories. And don't hold on to that past so much that in 5 to 10 years, you're crying about your now because you don't remember it, because you didn't allow yourself to experience it, because you didn't allow yourself to be happy, because you were worried about 5 to 10 years before that. And so let me give you the case study, and hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. So psychologists studied people who went through major setbacks, like 9/11 survivors and cancer patients. They expected to find trauma and decline, but a surprising number said the opposite. They said that the setback gave them deeper appreciation for life, stronger relationships, and even a clearer purpose. This became known as post-traumatic growth. Starting over feels like you lost everything, but in reality, it often makes you stronger than if things had never fallen apart. So, like all of my studies, I hope that one definitely made sense, but it's really about your perspective, because a lot of people go through a lot of things and we all come out of them different. Like there are some individuals who grew up without alcoholics, sorry, and they become alcoholics. And then there's some individuals who grew up with alcoholics and they say, I'm never drinking ever in life. I'm never picking up a drink. So it really is perspective for individuals. But I want you to understand, you from watching these videos, you from understanding it, you have a choice. And I know that's going to be so scary too, because ignorance is bliss, not knowing is bliss, but you have a choice. You have the opportunity to say, this thing made me stronger. The fact that I experienced this thing, and it's not saying that you wanted to. That's another thing. I think sometimes too, when it comes to strength, we think strength always has to be one we chose. No, there's a lot of things that happen to you in life that you did not choose, but unfortunately, you cannot change. So what I want you to do is look at that as your strength. You know how to deal with this and deal with that and still wake up in the morning and smile. You know how to deal with this and deal with that and still give yourself goals of the future. Don't think about those things in a way of those are proof that you're never going to be more. Those are proof that you're always going to have this smear on your jacket or this stain on you, or people are always going to look at you like a victim. No, that thing is proof that you can go through life and you can always have you. You can always pick you up. You can always make sure you're okay, because at the end of the day, people are going to judge you for what you go through. Unfortunately, people are going to victimize you. People are going to treat you differently. But as long as you can keep going, you can wake up and still have goals and dreams and aspirations. That is enough. And that is what's necessary for you to understand that you can always start over. Another power that you have when starting over is being able to romanticize the journey. Like the first time you do something, it's usually ugly in all forms. Like when you first start going to the gym, you probably wore an old cookout shirt, some random leggings that when you bent over, you saw your underwear. Like, let's just be completely honest. That's how it is. You get to romanticize the journey the next time you do something. And that's a lot of times where I feel like people mess up in making things mundane and making things try to be back the way they once were before after having something happen or having to restart. And one thing I mean, we're going back to the gym analogy, but like now, okay, we're not wearing ugly cookout shirts. We're not wearing, listen, TikTok shop, Shein, whatever. You can find some cute, every time you go out to work out, you should be liking what you're wearing. Like, don't just throw on something like, oh, wear some colors too, mama. Stop wearing all black. Get you a 2-piece set. Mix up sometimes this top with that top. Like, let's be cute about it. Even the rituals that you have for yourself. I tell people all the time, put something in a wine glass. It don't even got to be wine. If that's what you're cutting out and you're not drinking, you can put something that you have to drink. Maybe it's a green juice. Maybe it's a morning workout, whatever. Romanticize the journey, because the first time you did it the ugly way, you did it the first way, you did it the rough way. Now you have the ability to romanticize it and do things properly still, but now do them with just a little bit more flair, a little bit more personality. And personally for myself, I feel like that definitely has helped me when I'm restarting or when I go through something traumatic. It's kind of like, stop forcing myself to do things the way they were once done before. Like, you can do things differently. But yeah, that's a big one too. Like, even if you, God forbid, car accident, you get a new car, your old car, you just would drive your car. Your new car, come on now, they be having LED lights in the car. They be having the seat covers. Like, stop feeling like you have to do things the way you did it once before, especially after something traumatic, or especially just after something life-changing, even sometimes too, just as much as you wanting to change your life. Like, I know there's some people who are probably watching this and they may say, well, I've never really went through anything that traumatic or that detrimental. Don't wait for it. That's another thing too. Don't wait for something traumatic to happen. The simple fact that you have the conviction to do it, that is your restart. That is just enough reasoning as somebody who has something traumatic happen. Like, don't force yourself also to feel like you have to be fired or somebody has to pass away for you to get strength. No, you can get strength. Going back to neuroplasticity, you can get strength by choosing to do it. But also, for some of those who were forced to do it, understand that's the same amount of strength as well. Now, of course, we are going to give you steps on how we are actually going to do this, because I know I explained a lot, but it's like, okay, a lot of this stuff is in theory. How are we actually going to do it? So of course, I'm going to give you steps. The first one, Going back to uncomfortable things. Start intentionally doing things to make you uncomfortable. That may look like you taking a cold shower. That may look like you actually going to the grocery store instead of always ordering your groceries and picking them up. Do things that are like out of the ordinary, things that, and not just out of the ordinary. Like, okay, sometimes too, yes, you could take a different way home, but things that are literally going to make you uncomfortable, the things that you literally are like, I'm socially awkward, I don't like to talk to people. Okay, we're gonna go to the grocery store today and we're gonna ask a worker where something is, even if we already know where it is. And I know, depending on what you're going through, some people may say that's not that hard. There's some people who watch this right now that's like, oh my gosh, I don't even like to talk to my coworkers, like talking to somebody I don't know. Do those uncomfortable things. And they're small things too. Don't do no big drastic things, because I think that's going to give you too much responsibility to hold on to, because you're like, oh, if I do this, this will happen. No, it should not be a two-part thing. It should be a one-part thing of you doing one uncomfortable thing. Like I said, taking a cold shower or waking up at a certain time. That will literally help you start getting used to that uncomfortable stage that is necessary when starting over and during growth. The next one is create new rituals for your new identity. That may look like you essentially being like, okay, I'm going to start going on solo dates. Or maybe that may look like you saying, okay, I'm going to change my room completely around, change the color scheme. Yes, you know, mentally you're changing, and yes, physically you might do a little bit, but also there's an identity that is attached to so many different things that you don't even realize, from your house, the way it's set up, to your car, so many different things, to how you spend your days. So start essentially a new tradition for your new identity, because whether you realize it or not, you already have traditions now. Whether it's you going to sleep as soon as you go home, or as soon as you wake up, you being on your phone for 45 minutes to an hour, and then rushing to get ready in the morning, and then driving and cussing everybody out when you're the one that's late on the road. Anyways, start a new tradition. The next one, I kind of did mention this one, but start looking at restarts essentially as data points. Look at it somewhat as an experiment. This is showing me what not to do again. Instead of saying I failed, or I didn't commit, or I quit, I did this and this happened. And I also recommend to start writing them down in your notes or even in a journal, because I think that, going back to an experiment, imagine doing an experiment and you not having any way to recollect exactly what happened when things went well and when things didn't go well. So start looking at it as data points. When things happen well that you want it to happen, but also when things happen bad that you want to happen. Literally just start writing them down and stop looking at it as, or even writing it as, sometimes even your journal, as I failed or something like that to that extent. No, I did this and this happened. So you're able to tweak things moving forward. And now you literally have an experiments with the S inside of your journal, inside of your notes, so that next time you're doing this thing, you know what will make you fail and what will make you succeed. The next one is limit your horizon to 7 days. Yes, it's going to take more than 7 days to change your life, have your new identity. I realize that, we're going to acknowledge that. But you should be focused on the next 7 days. Like, yes, you have goals for yourself and things that you want to achieve that's going to take longer. But for 7 days, you should say, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to do that. And going back to the experiment, going back to the data points, you can actually see, okay, what did I do that helped me get closer in that direction or farther away from that direction? Stop looking at it as an entire 90-day process, an entire 6-month process, because that's what makes you feel worse when you say, I was going to the gym for 26 days and I was trying to go for 30 and then I messed up. I'm a failure. But when you're able to say, hey, I had 4 different experiments for 7 days each of going to the gym, and on the 3rd experiment, that's when I didn't get the results that I wanted to. Now you can look and see, okay, I was doing it. This happened, I didn't do it. But when you focus on these 7-day increments, it gives you a better understanding and a better honestly a better room to control things to get the results that you essentially want to get. But also with the understanding that there's going to be a bit of uncertainty, but the uncertainty is not as drastic. Going back to the first theory I talked about, it doesn't feel as detrimental when you're thinking about it in a 90-day scheme, 6-month scheme, 1-year scheme. You're looking at it for, I want to do this, that for the next 7 days. And we're going to figure out what gets me closer to this, that, or what gets me farther. Now, why right now is the best time to start? Because we are going to start right now, but not right now, in a couple weeks right now. So I mentioned before in September, we are going to start essentially a challenge. This is actually kind of the first video to the challenge. Every single week leading up to September 24th, I am going to be uploading videos. Of course, I upload videos every Sunday and every Wednesday. I'm now back on my regular schedule, so yes, I will be. Every Sunday, I'll be uploading videos that are specifically for the challenge. And then Wednesdays, we're gonna do just our regular psychology, neuroscience videos. Why right now is the best time to start is because these weeks, going back to what I said about the 7 days, are going to be our experimenting weeks. So for the first week, I want you to do this. And in the show notes below, I'm going to have you be able to actually print out a worksheet, or you can do it online if you want to. And you are going to figure out where you need to start over, because the first step in changing our life, we need to start over. We are going to do it in 90 days. It is going to start September, I believe, 24th, and it is going to end December 24th. I need to check the dates, but I believe that's right. The idea behind this is we're going to start in September, going into the fall time, and we are going to end right before Christmas, so you can have your fun with your family for Christmas. But then also, so by the time New Year starts, you already be a new person. You don't have to figure out, who do I want to be this year? No, you done already accomplished some goals. You done already proved to yourself what you can do. You done already went through so many different transformations and processes in 90 days that 2026 will literally be yours. We are going to start now. So I'm coming out with a challenge called the Unrecognizable. Sorry, I can't even talk, y'all. The Unrecognizable 90. Like I said, the challenge will start September 24th. The reason why it's so important now is because of a theory in psychology called temporal landmarks. We are more likely to do something and be more motivated to do something when we feel like there's a significant landmark, which is why people are so motivated the beginning of the year, which is why everybody wants to get their life together, their bodies together around their birthday time, because collectively as a people, but then also within ourselves, there's a temporal landmark as far as this is a milestone in my life. And that is why I want you all to join my challenge. Like I said, we are going to do the Unrecognizable 90. I'm going to explain the challenge and come out with it all, the official challenge, towards the end of September, around that week, about 7 days or so before September 24th. But up until then, we are going to be doing essentially experiments. So by the time September 24th comes, you're not like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to be unrecognizable, but I don't know who I want to be. I don't know the habits I should have. All these weeks leading up to. So please make sure that you're following me. Please make sure that you have your post notifications turned on so you do not miss a video. Also, please go below. I'm going to be uploading these videos as well on my podcast every Tuesday. If you forget here, you will also be reminded there. But essentially, I want you all to join this challenge. 2026, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not playing games. I want, by the time the new year start, I'm already the woman that I want to be. I want 2026 to literally be me walking into the woman. I do not want to start 2026 building that woman again. I want to use the later half of this year, the last quarter of this year, to literally be unrecognizable. I want September to December, by the time I look back in December, by the time December 25th comes, Christmas, I want to also be celebrating me. I want to look back and be like, dang, I really used to wake up at that time. Dang, my body released like that. Dang, I really used to drive that kind of car. I want to literally be unrecognizable. I want to look at my old habits. I want to look at the old things that I was doing and really be like, dang, that was really me. Oh, I can't believe that now. I'm glad she went through what she went through, because I'm glad where I'm at now. So that's the challenge that I want you guys to join. If you want to join this challenge, if you want to become unrecognizable, like I said, make sure you follow me. Please go into the show notes below, sign up for my newsletter so you're sent updates about that, and also go below. So for this video, you can get your own worksheet so you can actually start filling out the first section, which will be starting over. We need to figure out where we are starting over at, because like I said, you're gonna go through that awkward phase. But in order to get to that awkward phase, we have to figure out what we need to kill off. So thank you guys so much. I know the background is different. So speaking of starting over, I recently did move back home. And I'm sharing this journey on TikTok. So please also go below. I'm going to start sharing it, this journey on my TikTok of just showing you guys my process of moving back home, explain a little bit more why I did it, just so you guys also can be reminded about the challenge. I'm going to do updates on there. I try to be authentic as I can with you guys, but still, being me, and not sharing too much. But I want to show you guys what it takes, because not only I know we all can do it, but I also want y'all to understand I'm not perfect, and I'm going to have my struggling days, and I'm going to have my days where I don't want to get up, and I'm going to have my days where I don't want to do what I have to do. But I want to show you guys all of that, because I want us all collectively to look back on these next 90 days and be like, God damn, I'm so happy I did that. God damn, I'm so happy that I made that choice, that I decided to. So like I said, these next couple weeks are going to be the foundation. We're going to experiment. Every video of every week is going to be a different experiment, a different thing that we need to do, a different thing that we need to try out. And as much as I can, I'm going to try to make worksheets that you guys can do so you literally can write it down for yourself. And like I said, not just think of it. But yes, so possibly get used to this background. It might be a little bit different, but we are back home. And I know you guys are complaining about the sound. So hopefully the sound in this video sounds better. Tell me if it does, because I recently got a microphone. We're upgrading the content. We're trying to get everything together. But thank you guys so much just for sticking with me. And like I said, we're back consistent. So I'm going to be posting again on Sundays and Wednesdays, and just everything that I've been doing before. We're going to turn it up a notch 1,000 times more. So like I said, please make sure to follow me on TikTok, because I'm going to be sharing the journey on there. Please make sure you follow my podcast if you like the audio version, or just sometimes if you don't get notified on here, turn your post notifications on. Thank you. And all those things can be found below in the caption and the show notes. And I know on Wednesdays, I did have the advice like every other Wednesday. I haven't had it in a while. I do want to bring it back, but you guys have to actually email me. I have an advice email below. I know I haven't posted in a while, so it's actually not y'all fault, because I haven't been updating you about that. But the way it works, if you're not familiar with it, every other Wednesday, I have you guys watch my lives where you guys will email me in personal things that you're going through. It is completely anonymous. I do not say your name, and I just give you real advice. Of course, I have my own psychology, knowledge and stuff like that, but it's really me just talking to y'all. It's not more so case study. It's literally me reading stuff off on live and talking to y'all. Another disclaimer too, please don't make them too long. I try to read a couple. So like if yours is like a page long, that's a bit much. But yeah, so please email me in. I want to have one this Wednesday, which is, I think August 26th or 27th. I really do. Follow me, because I will tell you guys if I have one, but you guys have to email me. If you don't email me, then I'm going to have it the next following Wednesday. But the video upload Wednesday, I will tell you guys if I'm having one later that day. So of course they follow me with that. And I'm announcing to you guys, I am starting school. I'm going back to school to get my degree in psychology with a concentration in mental health. So like I said, we're doing a lot of starting over. We're doing a lot of rebranding. We're doing a lot of becoming the woman that we know we always have potential to be. We just didn't walk into her yet. So yes, 25 years old, I'm going back to school. We're doing it. We're restarting. We're becoming this new person. In the next 90 days, I'm not going to be a graduate, but I'm going to be closer to becoming the woman I wanted to be, because I decided to start becoming her today. So thank y'all so much. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I know the ending was kind of long, but thank you guys. Just wanted to give you guys all the updates on that, and have a good one.